Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Hello, and welcome to today's show, all my sexaholics out there. Now, a lot of things are going on. And with sex, as with technology and with everything else, it is growing in all different directions. But the same thing with sex that always comes down is the penis and the vagina rules are basically the same. And we have our, in the science world, our animal kingdom. It is what's supposed to come natural to us, basically, how we function. Now, we are going to talk about today some of the weirdest animal penises or vaginas, the first two implanted in the lab grown vaginas, which is totally amazing in science. Also some the freakiest and the horniest animals in the world. And most of you are probably thinking that is the human being. It is not. So we'll talk about some freaky sex genitals, genitalia, and then, some cool things like how some species have really brought to light the first sex change, believe it or not, going from penis to vagina, vagina to penis, or, the same, changing up their genitals, which is pretty darn interesting, and it didn't, happen in the human world either. I find these really cool because we're always comparing sexual functions or sexual ways of doing things, and most people say, we did it like animals. Well, if you know how animals do it, you'd be so totally surprised, and you'd be jealous because, wow, the way they have sex and the genitals that they do have and what they do is amazing. And as humans, we have the vagina and the penis, and penis goes in the vagina and occasionally into the anus or into the mouth for oral sex. But can you detach it? Can you let it swim somewhere on its own while you're going food shopping so that you can impregnate the other gender? No, you can't, which is wicked interesting. But there is a animal, kingdom, or a species that can. So let's get to town. Now, we all have sex for procreation reasons, and we know that because we need to have our species evolve and move and grow, and populations are growing, and then there was the baby booms and all that good old stuff. So procreating is really, really serious business, especially in the animal kingdom. Mother Nature has her way of having her part in all of this, which is for the survival, and it's to ensure the survival of all of the species. And this is how, like, that evolution continues. And there is a lot of things that are going on right now in the scientific world that would have your hair curl, basically. And if you have curls, it'll really make it curly. It'll probably make them straight. So, sex organs being one of the big things. I mean, there are animals or species out there that have multiple heads to prodigious shafts, and they basically extend an animal's body length, their genitals. So it's really, really interesting to know these things. So we're going to go with our lovely first species, and this is the Sleese Sea Slug. And the sea slug actually has a disposable regenerating penis. Wouldn't that be like the coolest freaking thing in the world? If a guy didn't like what they had, they could get rid of it, dispose of their penis, and then regenerate a new one. Boy, don't be jealous. It's been found that, the sea slug has the ability to discard its penis after copulation. Believe it or not, I guess he's got it where he doesn't have to worry about DNA problems. So if you get someone knocked up and they come back for the DNA, he got a different penis. So and they can't match him up. And believe it or not, that actually is a condition, and it has nothing to do, not in the general reasons for humans. People with two different DNAs. It's really, 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 really rare that the blood contains one kind of genetic thing going there, and the body has another. You got two different. The sperm and the blood are different, which is, like I said, very, very, very peculiar and very, very, very rare. And I don't even know of anybody who has it, but it does happen. Now, this obviously is a soft-bodied marine mollusk, our little sea slug, little cute, pretty thing. It's different because of its ability to grow a new penis within 24 hours. OMG. You know how easy that would be for a man to just discard, okay, I'm going to go to the next girl, boom, boom, boom. Oh my God. They are simultaneous hermaphrodites, is what they're actually called. They possess both the male and female genitals, and they actually use both of them during intercourse. Oh, I know you're really jealous now. And once they're complete, they just crawl away with their elongated penises still dangling. Interesting. Then all of a sudden they just sever from their bodies and float away. And this is all done within 24 hours of copulation. And then they regenerate the penis and boom, ready to go again. Moving right along, the fish penis with 4 sharp hooks. Ooh. It's with a freshwater dweller from Mexico. Looks harmless. The Alnos mosquito fish is what it's called. It actually has the most fearsome genitalia on the planet. They have a reproductive shaft equipped with 4 sharp hooks, which males use to grab onto resistant females during mating. So basically, she can get in the way. And she's forced. Talk about rape. These little boogers have it. It is actually, if it's being seen, they find it people find it very unpleasant looking genital barb. It's like ew. But when they're trying to break through the tissue that blocks their mates' genital pores, male mosquito fish, they're not very concerned with this because they're going to go and get the mate that they want because it holds on to them, they copulate, and boom. It's just, they like that one over there, that girl over there, and she's like, I don't think so. They're going to get her. So, oh my goodness. Talk about that. Rape would be so easy and not a good thing, so don't think that way. But do remember, if you feel that you have been raped, please reach out to a Rape Crisis Center. The next one is the sea turtle's massive, terrifying penis. Uh-oh. Now, with the male sea turtles, they are, it's been explained, horrifically well endowed. There are a lot of varieties of the sea turtle. And one, like the leatherback, have penises that, when erect, extend to nearly half the animal's 8-foot body length. I know you men out there are jealous now. The end point of their penis culminates in a 5-lobed head. And this head discharges semen from 4 different branches. So they're letting loose. They got 4 heads, and you're getting really jealous now. When the scientists, when they're being researched, scientists have found that the males evolved these innovative penises in order to inseminate females from long distances. Imagine being able to just sit in a chair and your penis just goes out to the girl next to you with no issues whatsoever. You don't even got to move. It can go down your pant leg, out the bottom, around the corner, up her pant leg or skirt, and into her panties. Really, really freaky. But these innovative penises, in order to, really, they have them to inseminate their females from long distances, like I said, and namely, this is for them to get past the female's protective shells and bulky squatting tails. So it lets them bypass all of the problems that come along. Now we're on to a bird, and it's the Argentine Bluebird duck's long. He's got a corkscrew penis. Now, most of these male birds do not even have a penis. But a few of them, such as this particular duck, which is the Argentine lake duck, Argentine blue duck, they actually do. And through them, it's much, they make up for everybody, all the other ducks. But this duck's penis is shaped like a corkscrew. And it can extend to more than 17 inches. The bird is actually only 16 inches tall, so they have a penis that extends beyond their height. Female birds, ducks, they are often observed trying to fly away from an eager male. The food's getting away there. Not even the food, your sex is getting away from you. You're a woman. They believe that because the females are trying to fly away, that the male's long penis could be an evolutionary response of the makes copulation easier for them, which obviously is forced copulation. The long penis also could be the reason why the females take off. If you see a freakishly long penis, really, unless there's a female out there with a freakishly long vagina, you're not really getting help there. The whole freakishly long penis is not going to be well used. And masturbating, well, that's got to be interesting as well. You could probably have several hands on there masturbating. So it has its good and its bad points. Moving along to another fish, all right, with a penis on its head. OMG. Well, you can see where it's going. That's always a plus. What I'm going to do here is we're going to take our first break of the show. And when we come back, we will discuss this fish with a penis on its head. So, when we do come back, that will be where we start. So, go and get yourself a snack and a drink. Come back and get comfortable, because this is going to be one juicy genital story. And I will meet you back after the break from our sex talk with Andra.
Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Now, welcome back from the break. We are talking about the weirdest genitals in the animal kingdom and freaky sex habits. We'll be moving on to. And I mean, so far it has been quite the journey. But hey, we got to procreate. And all living creatures, for the most part, do so. Although weird ways, but they do so. They put humans to shame, actually. But I always give you a sex position to try. So I'm going to start this segment off with that first, and then we will go back into our weird animal genitals and who's the horniest creature in the human, actually in the animal kingdom, sorry. So I picked for you today, because we are speaking of creatures and living beings in the animal kingdom. So I picked the spider as the sex position. And we were just discussing the spider and how his penis detaches, which allows him to be able to possibly survive not getting eaten by the female and to ward off any competitors in the way of his sexual meal and procreation. So, in the spider, both are controlling the movements of your body. You can rock back and forth. in which helps you get into that satisfying rhythm. Or you can, circular your hips, whatever feels comfortable for you. Getting into this position requires, or may even require, some flexibility. Now, this is because getting into this position, you have all your legs, like one leg over leg action going, and your hips are spreading. So you got a little bit of flexibility to get into it. But once you're into it, hey, leaning back, let those pelvises rock your world. So to do it, it resembles the crab walk. And you remember that when you were in, school and had to do PE. And you had to do the crab relays. And for those of you who have not done that, you're missing out. So, we complained about it, but hey, we did it. And that's something a little old in there. So it resembles a crab walk, but there is a crazy sexy way about it. Your pelvis, both you and your partner's pelvis should be above, or your partner, shall I say, depending on who's which or who's on there's not really a bottom to it, but one of you should have your pelvis above your partner while your partner's legs bend the side of, he has his legs bent on his side. So basically, sitting up, legs bent, resting on your hands for support, and you come in, you put one leg over the other in both. So now both your genitals are pretty close together. Penetration is quite easy in there. So get in there and get it moving, get a rhythm going. And you don't have to be doing a back and forth. You could try something else that might just be that much more comfortable and that much more satisfying, like maybe circular motions, or, figure eight. If you can do it, if you're flexible enough, hey, go for it. I know not everyone is flexible, but we try to believe we are, and that we are invincible in the sex bed. Interesting enough. But when we come out with in pain, then you wonder why. So we will be continuing on with our weirdest sex genitals. OMG. Let's see what we're going on to the whale. And we know the whale is pretty darn big to begin with. So imagine what the penis on this particular mammal is. Let's see how he works that penis. So, okay. Now, we are talking about the blue whale, and it is one of the largest creatures to ever roam the earth. A beautiful creature. And it actually has the penis to match, believe it or not. Shouldn't be too surprising there, because they do say your foot size kind of dictates what size your penis is. Doesn't always work, but hey. Now, the blue whale's penises range between 8 and 10 feet. OMG. With a foot-long diameter. Sucker is huge. Talk about ouch. There it is. Each of its testicles alone actually can weigh up to 150 pounds and can ejaculate gallons of sperm in a single sex fest. OMG. Very, very, very huge. Just thinking about that. Of the man that's... Oh, goodness gracious. Now, whale penises are so famously oversized that now they're going to the book Moby Dick. And in that book, Herman Melville wrote it, suggests that using the skin of a sperm whale's phallus, which is his penis, as a floor-length apron to stay tidy while skinning the rest of the whale. So sad. And humongously huge. That is one way of using the penis. But I think the whales have other ideas for it. Let's just stick with that. Now we are moving on to a non-so-friendly bed bugs. And they are very famous for their aggressive stabbing sex, which is like the warehouse pirate bug. We're to the point where overzealous males kill females with their saber-like penis in the process. There is another one that actually has the saber-like, which might also be the bedbug. Who's to say that it goes under a different name? Probably does. Me and bugs alone. This particular process, which is violent in itself, cause bedbugs to evolve. Something very vagina-like, where they tend to get stabbed. So they actually have a place that they can do this, and that's where they come up with the stabbing. This female-like vagina on the bedbug is a little less armored area of there, like in the abdomen region of the bug, and it helps to really minimize the harm that the male is going to cause while he injects his sperm into the female's circulatory system. So, hey, what can I say? Now we have gender-bending genitals in the bug world. And these are the female, believe it or not. And it's a cave insect. They also actually have something that resembles a penis as well. Obviously, this is a microscopic bug, and it's called an eyeless cave insect. It really, when scientists were looking at this bug, they were really amazed, and they're really confused at the same time on how the sexual relation actually worked with these particular bug species. But the males of the species have a vagina-like pouch, and it contains sperm, while the females have a special penis-like organ that penetrates and vacuums up the sperm from the male. So a little bit of a reverse technology here, and talking about serious gender bender, it's all the way down into the bug region. It's happening everywhere, so acceptance is still up to you. But you can never hold somebody for being different, because you yourself, they may not agree to things that you do. So remember that. Respect people for who they are and their beliefs. Now, unlike other species that use like this similar process of this bug with the gender bending, which are like the butterflies, the mites, the beetles, the males of the species do not have that similar penetrative organ. Only the females do. So you know that gender bending has been going on well before we brought it in. Hey, what can I say? That's how it's going. Now we have the Leopard Slug. And they actually have a giant electric blue penis. It's even nicely colored with electric blue. And obviously there are always challenges with the penis. This is not anything different for the Leopard Slug. And they are very well endowed for their size. It goes to, they have to go through really extreme measures to procreate. Mating with the Leopard Slugs dangle from branches by a sheared rope of their own slime, obviously. Snail, slug, slimy. Their own slime with their penises hanging below. Believe it or not. They are hermaphrodites as well. These slugs particularly inseminate each other during sex. So once the action starts, two penises are on display. They're fighting for the target. But in a sense, they're not really fighting. They both have what they need. So it's an exchange. Their penises are really easy to spot, as it's so nicely put, because they are electric blue and roughly the size of the slug themselves. And you just really, obviously slugs you can see. If you want to get a little particular, you can get up close and personal with the slug, completely up to you. I'm sure if you go on YouTube, you will find any video that will show you the animal kingdom's weird channels and their wacky sex practices. So, it's not something that you can't look up, but do not be jealous. We all have our own sexual practices. So, on that note, we are going to take a break here. Completely up to you if you want to go, replenish your snack and your drink. But if you have enough, just hang loose and remain comfortable, because I will meet you back here after the break for more sex talk with Andra.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Welcome back to the third segment in the show, where our topic is, on the animal kingdom and weirdest sex genitals, horniest animal in the animal kingdom, or species in the animal kingdom, and everything that has to do with sex alone. Now, as we have been talking, we have found some species have some unique penises, size, function, all that good stuff, although they all come back to the same end result, which is procreation. Always a good reason to have sex, only when you're ready though, so remember that. Now, we're going to go and look at, they have these weird genitals, or in a sense, amazing genitals, although getting the second sex and ejaculating might be a little bit harsh at times. You ask yourself, well, then what's the most sexual animal? That ranges from person to person, scientist to scientist. Now, one that has made the list is the Polyandros Marsupial. It has a strenuous and deadly mating strategy. Interesting enough. It's actually the Australian brown Antechinus stewarti. It's a rat-sized marsupial whose males actually, believe it or not, which a lot of people probably would love to do, at least one male, a fortnight-long sexual orgy. And this is with as many females as possible. Talk about having different baby mamas. The fun for this male actually just stops right there, because they all die of exhaustion. So all the males die, which is not very fun. But they do leave a population of females to give birth 27 days later. Their sperm lives on. They have marked their place in evolution, because it's going to continue. Obviously, this mating strategy for us is called Polyandry, and it is called that for them as well, but saves the females picking out the best males to mate with. It just saves them all that hassle. They don't gotta look around for anything. Their reproduction has been found in science, that the sperm of such males can outcompete that of inferior males in the race to fertilize the eggs. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Now, I know that I had, before I ended the last segment, because we will continue on with this subject, I said, there were a lot of videos out there to see what these genitals do work and what they look like. And it happened because the Leopard Slug actually caught my attention, which was the last species that I actually spoke before we went on break. And I actually watched it, and they hang from a string of slime. They intertwine a coil around each other, and then both their penises come out below them really, really long. It's a really slow process. And then the penises coil around each other because one goes into the other and the other one goes in, they intertwine that way as well inside of each other. And they do glow. It's really interesting to watch. But if you're, feel that you're going to be jealous at any point in time, you may not want to watch that. But it is actually a sight to see. Very interesting enough. So you're probably sitting there saying, oh, geez, well, if that one's there, maybe it'll say something else. Now, talking about the most sexual or what have you, and talking about sex, they name an ape that is the most sexual out of all animals or species alike overall. And it's actually close to us humans, figures. It is a paniscus, which is a bonobo, and it is the closest relative to humans, which is also alongside the chimpanzee. It was originally called a pygmy chimpanzee, and they only lived in one country, the Dominican Republic of Congo, at one point. But they are not a small ape by no. Oh, small monkey, shall I say. They're not small at all. They're pretty hefty for the species. The average male, there are 5,000 that are remaining in the world, by the way. There might even be a little more, a little less. They're endangered. But the average male bonobo weighs approximately 95 pounds, or in meters, metric, it is 43 kilograms. The average female is not that far off from them, believe it or not. They're 82 pounds imperial and 37 kilograms in metric. The height, they are small, but not completely. Very close females to males. Male is 31 inches, and which is also translates to 78 centimeters. And the female is 29 inches, 73 centimeters. Now, they obviously sleep in treetop canopies of the rainforest, so if you want to go and see one. They actually, it's funny because they say that they have earned their nickname as the result of a colorful, how they have sex, their colorful sex lives. Unlike other simians, the bonobo female genital is tilted forward, much like that of the human females. So this is why they're quite relatively close to us. And because of this, the bonobos are capable of face-to-face sex. Not so bad yet. Nothing to, make you shiver. And they can, do all kinds of positions. Obviously, like humans. It is the habit of the bonobo to have sex at least once a day, but frequently several times a day. And this is unlike any other mammal or primate. They engage in recreational sex, not just reproductive. So they are really close to the humans when it comes to sex. They have been observed engaging in oral sex, group sex, and deep kissing, believe it or not. And they often gaze into one another's eyes, just like humans do. Most other species do not. It's in there, let's mate, boom. If they survive, that's the trick all the way down. With the bonobos, they're like humans, and they, have that intimate contact in the eye contact. And this is, one another's, they're gazing into their mate's eyes during sex. And it's in ways that are impossible for other mammals to do to the physical limitations of such. They actually resemble human structure physically. And it's more to the, physically, and it's closely related to, other primates. But their legs are longer and their arms are shorter. Things on, structures are different. and stuff like that so that they can move a little bit easier during sex, because they have ears that are smaller and have more open facial structure than other simians. This, coupled with the structure of the female genitalia mentioned, that I spoke about, make them the closest human relative in the animal kingdom. We know that. Yay! They are hunters, though. But they are considered the most sexual animal in the entire world. And, of course, they're related to us. I know half of you are not surprised by that. Now, all of you, because I am not. We have to have, we're always talking about our, how closely related, how evolution is working. This is part of it. So, there are a lot of animals out there, or, in the animal kingdom, species out there that, they're just there for procreation. They're not there to, enjoy it. Humans and bonobos actually have that intimacy about them, which is the chimpanzee as well, and anything along that line. Now, animals who, aside for those two, who just love getting down and dirty, we know that this is out here, because we wouldn't be here like this if they didn't have sex to push the evolutionary track ahead. And humans, and we always talk about us because most humans believe that animals are not smart. Actually, animals are somewhat smarter than humans, and we are animals. But I mean the furry, four-legged, or the ones that are actually out in the wild. We all know that humans, if not yourself, are obsessed with doing it. But what is not known is, while that us as humans love bumping uglies, having sex, we aren't the only animals who enjoy it. And this is even more than probably we do as humans. So remember that as well. There is, a lot of our species, or actually each one of our species, has its own quirks, obviously, when it comes to sex. If they didn't, mating would be probably a lot easier, honestly, truthful. But they do get a kinky. Obviously, we have a lovely relative, the bonobos. We also have our little marsupial out there, our lovely Australian brown marsupial there. He's another one that is really good. And we always say that saying, rabbits are doing it like rabbits, or humans doing it like rabbits. Yes. Rabbit, we use this for everything we use rabbits. I mean, come on. In the beginning, they were using rabbits to see if the woman were pregnant. If the rabbit died, then the woman was pregnant. Poor rabbits. But when breeding comes, and breeding like rabbits, which we use that one a lot as well, there actually is truth, which we all know that this one is not unfamiliar to us. During the course of the rabbit's lifetime, though, he or she, male or female rabbit, will parent an average of 1,000 rabbits. Yeah, we have men and women out there that have, especially men, because they like to be generous with the sperm, where they have numerous children by numerous females. But I don't think I've heard of anyone having 1,000 children yet. Their mating sessions last only 20 to 40 seconds, but they produce this many rabbits. And they can get, because of this, they can get plenty in over the course of a day. So they can do this a couple times because it's such a short, it only lasts 20 to 40 seconds. They can do it numerous times during the day. So they really are getting sex a gazillion times a day. And they're, procreating there. Now, they don't, believe it or not, rabbits do not have the traditional heat or menstrual cycles. Most, like dogs and cats and things, they actually have a menstrual cycle, and most animals and stuff. They really don't have it. So they are always ready to hit the knockin' and procreate. On that note, we are going to take the final break in the show. So just sit there, relax, enjoy yourself, and I will be back after the break for more Sex Talk with Andra.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, with a topic about sex from the point of view of an older woman. Welcome back to the final segment in today's show, where we are talking about some weird genitalia amongst the animal kingdom, and the weird sexual behaviors of such, as well as the most sexual animal in the animal kingdom, or mammal, or whatever you call it. It goes under the animal kingdom. Not just the humans. So we might think we're out there and we're more sexual. And no. It's worse, to think that you are, and we do have a few people out there who do suffer from severe necrophilic. They're like, really into sex and always has to have sex, very sexual, very promiscuous, all that good stuff. Not a fun thing to have, so do get checked. Please see your physician. As we move along, we are on to our lovely friends, the dolphins. Now, we know the dolphins are constantly horny because their penises are like hands, which are constantly touching things, which is a kind of a turn on for them all the time. Now, they will use just about anything, even fish heads, to pleasure themselves. Like the bonobos, dolphins are one of the few non-human animals to have intercourse purely and for pleasure, actually. That's why we probably, go swim with the dolphins. We get very close to the dolphins because they're kind of sort of on the the affection and all that stuff like that kind of mirror humans. Now, they are known, obviously, to engage frequently in both hetero and homosexual activity. Believe it or not, simply for the love of it. But they do go and take the pursuit of pleasure a little bit further than that. And that's even over humans. And this is particularly in regards to masturbation. Believe it or not. I'm not kidding you. They masturbate more than humans do. And that, again, is because of the way their genitalia are built and used. Now, believe it or not, dolphins have been observed masturbating and by researchers, and they find it to be, or considered to be, extreme. Now, these are some of the things that they found. One was by wrapping live eels around their penises and copulating with dead fish. Dolphins also exhibited sexual interest in humans. Did I not just say we get really close to dolphins? We swim with dolphins and everything else. Now, and this is an indication that the need to orgasm knows no intraspecies bounds. They don't have a problem. Not at all. So just watch out. You get a dolphin starting to hump you in your water with them. Don't be surprised. Next lovely species on our list is the female Japanese Macaques orgasm. And this particular animal can mate up to once an hour. Their response to sexual activity, and they're really ever been able to be sighted doing it in nature. But when the female orgasm occurs, she clutches her partner. The female will clutch the male and intentionally look at him. There's that eye contact. Hey, And believe it or not, they were observed in one study over a 238-hour period. And they mated a total of 240 times. That went up in about, oh my God, it even went over the hours that they were being watched. They really enjoy it, and they get a lot of it. Lions are our next ones, which they have intercourse for 3 days straight. OMG. Now, when obviously a female lion is in heat, generally she will spend like 3 sleepless days and nights having non-stop sex up to, actually with about 5 different partners. Oh, she gotta get rid of it. Ooh, she gotta be satisfied. Sometimes when a female is in heat, it can last up to like 5 days. And then she can do it with as many as 250 times. Oh my God, they're putting us to shame. And this is normal. Now, the intercourse between the male and the female lions is often violent and always noisy. So you think we make noise? Oh, no. They make noise more than we do. Doesn't generally begin that way, but it could get that way. Female lions have been found and known to perform oral sex on males, believe it or not, to facilitate sexual arousal and help them get down to business faster. Hey, she ain't waiting. She ain't waiting. She wants her stuff and she wants it now. Obviously, we have the big brown bear. What a cutie patootie. Look at the bear. Look at the bear. And believe it or not, brown bears perform fellatio, foreplay, on one another. And they do it a lot. Obviously, I think bears are just squishy-wishy and so beautiful. But they do have a massive, violent, territorial, and surprisingly sexual background. They are sexual creatures. They have been known to actually engage in both oral and homosexual activities. They're horny, they're gonna get it. They have been observed, and there was actually a pair of male bears in Croatia sanctuary that were observed, believe it or not, by researchers for a total of 116 hours. During that time, 28 separate acts of oral sex was performed between the two of them. Get a load of that. And that's actually, if you break it down, about one act every 4 hours. Honeybees, obviously they have orgies, but sadly they do die after. We have the little queen bee up there, and she does hit maturity. And at a very young age, 7 days old. The first thing that she does is to go on her maiden voyage to find a mate. So she goes on a male hunt, a mating hunt. She leaves the hive. Gets greeted by hundreds and hundreds of other male bees, but they're called drones, which means that they are sexually mature male bees. And they're from the hive, and they're in the surrounding area, and they're waiting for a queen bee to show up to have sex. Now, these bees, queen bees, usually will fly anywhere from 50 to 150 feet off the ground, and then she will proceed to mate with as many as 20 drones over the course of an afternoon. Believe it or not, I'm quite interested to know how they have sex with the stinger. Maybe the stinger's not there yet, I don't know. Gotta look that one up. It's funny because it states that this would almost kill any human. We couldn't sustain it. Bad news for the drones is that they do die after, because their penis explodes and then falls to the ground and dies. Scary enough. Shall I say? Garter snakes. They actually skip eating so that they can have a giant orgy. Interesting enough. I can't even say anything in regards to that because they get down and dirty. I mean, they love to get down. I mean, during their mating season, the need to have intercourse even overtakes the need to eat for them. So they particularly live in Canada, and it's funny because it's considered the world's largest snake orgy, and it has been recorded, believe it or not. A lot of people came out to see it as well, because apparently it is quite a sight. Might get some pointers from it, but hey, there are some risks involved with this. Some of our little slithering creatures may get crushed to death by that slithering pile just to get a little poutine. Hey, at least they died happy. Can't say anything else. Most people love and will say they want to die in the bed having sex. There's another colorful way to say it, but I'm not going to say it on here. And the last particular mammal that we are going to talk about before we move on to our final topics in the show is the male northern elephant seals. Now, they usually oversee a harem of lady seals out there, female seals. They actually have a harem of 30 to 100 female seals, which are called cows. I can't see the plus in that on our end. There is an alpha male, and this alpha male, northern elephant seal, they usually have plenty of female variety to pick from, in which they do. And it leads to so much intercourse. It is not at all uncommon for a male to father 500 pups over the course of his lifetime. Interesting enough. Their gestation, humans are 9 months, theirs is 11 months for the female. Even though this is what happens because they have so many females and they have their harem, they're able to procreate with a much larger amount of baby mamas. So, it doesn't exactly, you gotta kind of earn it in their thing. The harem doesn't just get given to them. They actually have to work for it. And they actually do it by regularly fighting off other males in order to have as many females as that particular elephant seal would love to meet with. So you think we are bad? No. They're bad. So now we're going to talk a little sciencey here, even though I do stick sciencey things in there. And I found this very, very interesting because medicine and science has grown so much. We're always talking about sex and how to, better perform, or sex change operations, or anything that is moving that medical field along in the discoveries and ways to do things. Well, that is not uncommon in this particular instance, where there were lab-grown vaginas, and they were implanted in 4 different girls. And the way they did it was pretty cool. They grew them in the lab, and like on a scaffold. Like they set up a little scaffold in a petri dish so it could grow. The organs are working normal, and they were put into 4 teenage patients who were really among the first to receive an in-lab grown vagina. It is a transplant. Apparently they had issues with their female parts. This discovery came up and found that, this transplant was actually worked. So, apparently these 4 girls actually underwent this surgery 5 to 8 years ago. Let's see what time we're talking here. So, 2014, kind of a little bit of an old article. But, so go 8 years before that, 2006. They were born with a rare condition in which the vagina and uterus are underdeveloped or absent. So they actually were born with this particular problem, genetic condition. They grew each of the vaginas from the patient's own cells, which was good because that would mean that her body would accept the vagina with no problems. And then they took it once it was grown and they implanted it. They've been going through all the follow-ups and everything, and at that point in time, everything was actually doing very well. Now, it's through this study and this research, they actually found that the results have showed that vaginal organs can be constructed in lab and used successfully in people. Just said that. And they're continuing this on. There's probably more research that's been done. This is 2021, and this article is from 2014. So we have, 7 years, which probably has so much more research that has been done. I'll probably look into it. But this happened to grab my eye, and I thought it would be pretty interesting to let everybody out there know. Growing a vaginal, growing this implant from vaginal tissue from a person's own cells, they're looking at it as a very good treatment option for patients with vaginal cancer. So it's out there right now, and I'm sure they're using it. I don't know at what point that they decide that it would need to be done with patients who do have vaginal cancer or injuries who require reconstructive surgeries. I don't know. But I will look into it. And on that note, I thought that was a pretty interesting article, because that's the first I've even heard of it. I know they were doing massive things with sexual organs in the world of science, but I did not know that they were doing that, believe it or not, and it has been successful. So, that is the end of the show for today, or tonight, wherever you are located, whatever time of day it is. As always, please practice safe sex, if not for yourself, for your partner, and vice versa. Also, if you are going to try anything new, preferably none of the most dangerous sexual habits in the animal kingdom aside from humans, please educate, communicate, and consent. Big, big deal. So I do thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, which is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I do ask that you hit the subscribe button, leave 5 stars, and a good review, because it not only helps me, it helps the GSMC Podcast Network to know what content to bring you and what you want to hear. I also ask that you please reach out and find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, because we are there as well. Please hit the little thumbs up there stating that you like us, or the little heart, show us some love. And please leave a comment. Let us know what you want to hear, what we can bring to you, what you want to know about. On that note, that is the end of the show. And until next time, think sex. And that is all. Sex is important. So, again, till next time, for more sex talk with Andra. Bye-bye for now.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. Network. From sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast.